if you own a job and you get hurt, that income stops. I want to teach people the impact and the influence that we want to have, build a business and an asset that they can hand off to their families and children. There's only 24 hours in a day. The most successful people learn how to use that best leverage opportunity to really push your business forward.
So hey guys, this is Sam with Troops Mowing. We have Will here with Military Lawn Cuts. This is our first podcast, both individually and as a duo. So we're excited to learn this process and the system of doing podcasting. And Will is just a well of knowledge, and so I wanted to pick his brain and post some of this content out into the YouTube world and see if it can help any small businesses out. So Will, thank you for meeting with me.
Absolutely.
You gave me a beautiful tour of your shop space here in Pilot Point. Why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and your operations, and just kind of give a brief intro to who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. So for those of you that don't know, my name is Will. I'm with Military Lawn Cuts. Over the last 4 years, we've done $630,000 last year, and we just opened up our second location in Salina this year. We just bought this new headquarters. I was a former paratrooper in the Army, so just like you, veteran, soldier at some point, at all points, because I think it travels with you. But yeah, just growing, scaling. Our goal is to franchise our business. So we're really trying to create systems and really build an operation that that runs without you.
Yeah.
Like that's our whole mindset and goal is how do we do that, and that's everything that we do. So.
Cool. I wasn't aware that you were going to franchise your company. I thought you were doing like different corporately owned locations. So what makes you want to franchise versus having all corporately owned locations? And what are you doing? What's like the short-term steps and the long-term steps of franchising your company?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. So the reason why we want to franchise it is because I'm a huge component on building wealth and just really taking care of your just building an assets for yourself, right? So like I'm a huge component on that. If you own a job and you get hurt, that income stops. And so I want to teach people the knowledge that I have to go out and do it for themselves and build a business and an asset that they can hand off to their families and children that still produces cash flow, each month and things like that. So that's and I'm huge on like helping people. I think there's more ownership with that. So we have thought about going the privately corporate route, but we're not I'm pretty positive we're going to go the franchise route. I'm still open to maybe just doing the corporately owned, but I think we're really leaning towards the franchise because they just have more stake in the game, and it's like it's theirs per se. Just acting underneath our kind of name and all that stuff. As far as like the process for that. That's a really good question. That's something so we're going to Landscape Summit this year. Cool.
Yeah, I'll see you there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's one of the things that we're going to reach out and talk to Mike about of like how to do that. I know there's a lot of legal stuff, and it's like a lot of money. I think he said it's like easily $100,000 just to get all the like paperwork set up and all that stuff to kind of scale that. But still learning. There's another guy locally, his name's EJ, who owns Chorby. They just franchised it too, so one of my goals is to have him on a podcast and start drilling with some of these questions of like, how do you even do that,
Yeah, and it all starts with a vision and a goal, right? And then you kind of figure out what you want to do or how to legally and operationally handle that goal. Before I grew the company, it was after I started it, I was like, franchising could be a good opportunity. One thing that I struggled with was Military Lawn Cuts and Troops Mowing. So if you're franchising that, do you have to have a veteran franchisee to be able to run that franchise, or can it be a non-veteran, or how do you see that?
That's a great question. I think for our franchise, when we do it, we're not going to put that restriction on it. The reason why is if you do that, because there's a couple other things that we're going to restrict to. So like I think we're really going to build out the weed control and mowing. Like we're not offering just mowing. So that right there, from a new franchise that comes into our organization, like it's like, hey, you have to be licensed in chemical applications. Before you even like submit an application, you need to get licensed. So that's going to vet and close the doors for a lot of like average people that want to own their lawn care company, So that right there, and then if we restrict it even more down to only soldiers and veterans, I think the impact and the influence that we want to have and the helpfulness that we want to give to people, it will be very, very skinny on that scope, you know. So that's why we have thought about that. But I mean, you definitely could, like, if you wanted to, you could do that. I think because USAA does that stuff, you know, like where they only have not necessarily the franchise things, but their clients have to be veteran owned, you know, and there's a pretty big pool of that. But now, who wants to be a business owner from that pool? So
in
it might
lawn
be
care, in Texas,
right.
Or if you go nationally.
Yeah.
Totally get it. I'd like to take a step back. I know my business brain just jumped. You said franchise, and it triggered a few questions I had. But I'd like to take a step back. So you were a paratrooper, I think, was it 5 years? That you did?
5 years and 10 months.
5 years. And I was doing a little bit of research on your YouTube channel, and it looked like after you got out of the Army, you've always been committed to the YouTube, right? So I've seen in the Army you posting some awesome videos. It looked like you got into wholesale real estate.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yeah.
And then you transitioned into lawn care. So tell me what that looked like, ETSing or getting out of the military into that wholesale real estate, you know, venture into lawn care. What made you go from real estate to lawn care?
When I got out of the military, after being told what to do, when to do it, how high to jump, you know, all of that stuff, for 5 years and 10 months, I wanted the freedom. That's why I got out of the military, and I knew I wanted a family one day, to not like spend deployments away from my family and kids and things like that. So from there, we had moved down here to Texas to be closer to family and things like that. And then my wife and I, we were just trying to figure out, like, hey, what can we do to make money? And so I knew that I think it's like 85% of millionaires or billionaires even own real estate. Like, that has to be the piece of the puzzle to build long-term wealth. I understand that. Even like with the McDonald's Ray Kroc, you know, somebody asked him, like, hey, what business are we in? And it's not, and he said, if you guys think it's a hamburger business, it's not true.
Yeah.
He's like, we're in the real estate game.
Yeah.
And so that was a really interesting mindset too. But anyway, so try to get into long-term real estate investing, because like I'm a big component on cash flow. Like I want cash flow coming in. I don't want capital gains, right? If you buy a property low and then sell high, like that's capital gains, but then that income stops. I want to create assets that generate every single month, just like the game of Monopoly that comes in. And so from there, just to kind of get into the game, wholesaling is super easy. You just kind of like flip a contract per se, but that's kind of what started it. And then I remember going out, putting out like those bandit signs like super early in the morning and things like that. But yeah, I think I got one house under contract, but it never really kind of, you know, did much. And you always had to hustle and grind, like literally 24/7, 7 days a week. But from there, yeah, it was kind of easy because I had owned a lawn care business when I was younger. My dad helped me hand out flyers and everything. My wife is really good with plants. She helped her mom like out in the garden, you know, growing up.
Yeah.
So we were like, okay, if we want to own a business, you know, how do we come up with something that we can both contribute together and build something together? You know, that was the big key too, because like so many people, they go and work a job 40, 50 hours a week away from their loved ones, and like at the end of the day, they give their scraps left over what their day consists of to their spouse. And I was like, that's a non-negotiable for me. I want to be with you. You know what I mean? And that's you know, everything that we do. We try to be together.
And you see it on your YouTube videos. You guys are out. You have her pulling weeds, and she's rocking the uniform. And obviously, she's a big important part of the company. I remember back when I first started my company, and I was super strapped on time. My wife would come out and help pull weeds. But she's in the medical field, so that's just like her calling is not pulling weeds.
Right.
But how is that working with your spouse day in, day out? You guys have, you know, professional issues that arise in any business, and then you have to take that hat off and go home and then, you know, be a husband. What challenges arise in that, if any, and how would you describe working with your spouse?
Yeah, phenomenal.
Yeah.
I wouldn't trade it for anything.
That's cool.
I can spend majority. Like in the beginning, I'm like I genuinely, when I try to go, like when I'm away, I try to speed home to be with her. Like I just genuinely enjoy doing life with her.
That's
like
so cool.
it's amazing. I think in the beginning, because I mean we literally do everything together. We sleep together, we wake up, we brush our teeth together, we drive to work together. We do jobs together like all day long.
Yeah.
And that was the beginning of the first couple of years in business. And then I think what happens is there comes a point where it's like you're spending so much time together that it's like, okay, we've decreased this amount of space so much, but we're literally doing everything together. So it's like now I think we're getting to a point where we are like, okay, we're figuring out what we're good at in the business, kind of figuring out what hats we want to wear, and then almost kind of creating some kind of space there. So that way when we kind of come back together, we're like, hey, what did you do like this afternoon? What did I do this afternoon? And that's kind of like working pretty well too. Mm-hmm. It's like trying to start to create some space. I think Alex Hormozy posted something on, I think the average like spouse and married couple spends like, I don't remember what it was, maybe like an hour or two a day.
Yeah.
And like, when you add that up, we spend literally every minute of the day. So it's like, after 5 years, a normal marriage would spend, maybe X amount of hours, but ours is like quadruple that. So we've technically only been married for like, 3 years coming up? And like, but on a scope of how much time we're spending together, it's more like 9, like triple that, because we're always together. You know what I mean? So,
yeah. No, that's super cool. And I guess my follow-up question to that would be, that's amazing that you guys are spending that much time together. Do you have an issue turning off business to relationship? Because even though you guys spend a lot of time together, I'm putting myself in your shoes and just how my brain works. If it's 8 p.m., I would still be like talking business to my wife. And it's like, at what point do you have to take that hat off? Do you have an issue turning that on or off at all?
It was a lot harder in the beginning when we worked from our house, which we still kind of do right now, but we've learned to kind of understand the dichotomy of that, right? So like in the beginning, what we found is those conversations were going like into our bathroom and then like into the garage, and like when we're like getting ready for bed, all of a sudden we're still talking about business, and it's like, okay, we have to draw a line somewhere. So like now, so what we did is we shifted to like in the office and the kitchen, because when we take our lunch, we're still talking business, like things going on. So like in the kitchen and the office, that's work talk. If we're in different types of the rooms, like don't bring it up.
Yeah.
Or, hey, I got to talk to you about something, instead of just jumping into it of like, hey, so-and-so did this and this is what's going on with this customer. But like creating those boundaries, because like, yeah, man, we were like in our bedroom closet talking about like customers and this stuff, and it's like it needs to be separation.
And that's cool. Healthy boundaries is awesome. It sounds like you guys are both on the same page and communicated what you need out of that, so that's super cool. Transitioning from family more into the business, tell me how many employees you guys have, how many trucks, what does your business look like on a day-to-day?
Yeah, so right now we have 6 trucks. We have 4 to 5 team members that are out in the field, and then 1 office manager. We have a new hire that's starting next week. Cool. But yeah, that's kind of the scope.
That's pretty much it. And one question I had driving in, and you answered it as soon as I got here. You were mentioning that this shop space is about like 15 minutes away from like the core of your customers. How do you handle that on a labor efficiency standpoint if you're almost like forcing the crew to take 30 minutes, 15 there, 15 back out of their day, and does that impact their labor efficiency?
So it does, but we found that it's the same, because in the 6 months ago when we didn't have this property, we had a storage unit that was 3 baseball throws from our house. It was right there. It was 3 minutes. Like just go around the street and it's right there. But what we found is every morning and every evening they had to unload the truck equipment. So that 5 minutes of taking the weed eater off and then loading it in the morning, what is basically equivalent. So all of the equipment is locked up on the trucks now. The only thing that they need to do is grab the mower out and they're good. So it's very quick, very inefficient. It's basically the same amount of time almost from when we were running out of a storage unit and having to unload the truck every night.
Yeah. One of my questions is like, what's your biggest struggle in the business? And it sounds like with you pursuing the franchise route, even though you guys have a very successful, very established company here, you guys are opening your 2nd location. The end goal is multiple hundreds of franchisees. So in the military, they say crawl, walk, run, right? So it sounds like you're in the crawl phase in terms of your end goal. What are you currently like? Obviously, there's physical stress if you have to go do 10 lawns today after this podcast. But what are your mental struggles on a day-to-day?
So mentally, I think I'm pretty like tough. I mean, there's definitely stress and stuff like that, but I would say like maybe like the biggest struggles and challenges that we're facing in the business right now is like, I would say number one is basically hiring and basically coaching a GM. Mm-hmm. So right now I'm kind of acting as a dual GM, so is Larissa, and like we hired a GM in the past and it didn't work very well. Mm-hmm. It just, yeah. So, but it was great. I mean, the first time I ever hired an employee, it didn't go well either. Yeah. So it's like, okay, how do we get better? And as long as we just get incrementally a little bit better, of like, okay, maybe we need to train them a little bit better, because guaranteed we didn't train them properly, yeah, or equip them with what they need. The other thing that we were thinking about doing is like, instead of making the GM at our Aubrey location that's doing $630,000, it's a lot. The weed control, the mowing, mm-hmm, the bush trimming, team culture, hiring, estimates, like they've got to understand all of that. It's so complex. And like, instead, if we're opening up a Salina location, why not just promote a GM over there and have them build it from the ground up and learn as they go? Mm-hmm. Because I think that is easier. And then from there, you know, when we open a Frisco location, then we can cherry pick the better of the GMs and pull them up to the Aubrey location. Because it's, like I said, we put a GM in the Aubrey location and it was not that great. And again, there was a lot of things that we were trying to figure out. I'd say the second thing that I kind of struggle with, right, or that we're still kind of figuring out, is now that we're opening a second location, time management is huge. Mm-hmm. And so like, understanding and figuring out what the priorities are that actually move the needle forward is what needs to get done. Yeah. And like, we're finding that.
Hey guys, wanted to take a quick second here. So I don't ask or promote anything on this channel or sell anything directly to you guys. I provide this value completely free to you, and hopefully it helps grow and achieve greater success in your business. But what I wanted to ask from you is if you could click that subscribe button and share this video with someone, an entrepreneur in the lawn care industry that you feel could benefit from this content. More importantly, it may change someone's future. We'll see you guys here then.
The conversations with Larissa and I and the team is like, hey, we understand that needs to get done, but that's not going to get us where we need to go. So either A, someone else needs to do it, or B, it needs to get pushed aside. Mm-hmm. and really focus on like the priorities. Because when we're opening a second location and you have like 2 locations and you're a dual GM, it's like there's only 24 hours in a day. Mm-hmm. And like, the most successful people learn how to use that with the best leverage opportunity to really push your business forward, instead of getting caught up in the minute details of like, hey, let me wipe down this inside windshield of a truck and like do this. And like, yes, those are all great important things, yeah, but it's not going to move the business forward. You know what I mean?
And it's like, those things have to get done, but your skill set, your importance to the company on like a $1 per hour basis, wiping a window doesn't match. Like, you're overqualified for that job, right? Your time is better spent in other areas.
Yeah, 1,000%.
So I agree. And then you also brought up a good point where having the GM start a new location is super important, because we're also starting a second location next year. And I was balancing the idea of, should I have the GM, one of our employees, he's rock solid, run the current location, and me just go back and just thug it out for a year and like sweat and grind and get that started. But to your point, I think it's better to have that GM in that new location, because they understand the struggles that you went through starting it out. And then now you have 2 people going to that 3rd location, 4th location, that's just a well of knowledge, being able to help out future GMs. And then having that GM, to your point, will help you understand the system that is needed, because if you're in it, it's easy just to be like, I'm Will Kelly, I don't need systems, I've done this before, I'll do it again. But if you have somebody else, they have to rely on systems, and they can tell you what's broken, how to fix it, and all that. So I agree 100%. I think that's a solid idea. And then with you have so much going on. And this is my first time meeting you in person, but we've talked via webcam before, and I've seen your YouTube videos. You have so much passion and drive and energy. What's your why? Like, what keeps you going?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah. So I believe, and I've always believed this from when I was a child, that I was put here to do something big, mm-hmm, really big. And I just, in my mind, I just know, and I never knew what it was. And I enjoyed helping people, and I always believed like I was put here to do something bigger. And from there, you know, obviously I have faith, and you know, I'm a believer in everything. Yes, and so what I've started to realize is like, my passion in business and finances and like building assets that generate cash flow, that businesses that run without you, so that you can spend more time doing what you love or whatever that is my purpose here to help other people do that. And so a lot of what we're doing on the channel is like, really just trying to show everybody what we're doing and hopefully help them out and be a blessing to them, and just really making a big impact on people. And I've spoken that for a long time. Even when I met my wife, I was like, look, I'm like, you and we're gonna move mountains, and like we're gonna impact a lot of people.
That's so cool.
I don't know how, I don't know where or when, but yeah. So.
Dude, that's just so cool. And I'm about to give you the biggest compliment. I know this is not business related, but that's the first time you told me that you had faith and that you were a believer. Just from our webcam interview and the podcast meeting you this morning and YouTube videos, I knew that you were a believer because you held yourself different. There's something about you that's like they always say, you want to live above reproach, right? And how you carry yourself, how you hold yourself, there's something different about you, and you can just see it. So I just wanted to acknowledge that and breathe life into you, man, because it's definitely apparent. Just to wrap up this podcast, what would be the biggest piece of advice that you would give to someone if they're coming out of, say, let's say the military or wholesale real estate or wherever, and they say, January of 2024, I'm starting a lawn care company. What is the biggest piece of advice you would give them?
I would say the probably biggest advice that has helped me in my career is to seek guidance and advice from someone that is where you want to be. Too often, too many times, we go to people that are closest to us, friends, family, neighbor. Hey, I'm thinking about doing this. Hey, I'm thinking about doing that. But they might be working a job, and that's not where you want to be. And they're going to tell you the 101 reasons why that won't work. I think if we focus, even where I'm at today, like I need to be seeking advice from people that are where I want to be. That's why I lean into Mike and what he's doing and everything, and like trying to get close to him, because he's there. He's running multiple businesses. He's franchising it, and just really seeking advice. And that mentor kind of mentee relationship is kind of what like people throw around and stuff like that. But I think at the end of the day, it's just, can you bring value to each other, right? And so like, how do we bring value to each other and both accomplish what we want to? And so I would say if there's somebody just starting off, get with someone who is in the industry, reach out. There's so many people on YouTube, and it doesn't even necessarily have to be you or I, right, or maybe a lot further than them just literally buying their first mower. Get with someone who's maybe on YouTube, reach out to them, friend, neighbor, who's like just starting off, and saying, hey, how do I get to where you're at? Like what can you advise? Because that's huge. Is just really seeking advice from people that are where you want to be.
Yeah, coming from a place of like humility and humbling yourself, and you don't know everything, so just seek that guidance. And that's a great piece of advice. So one thing I've noticed is you post a lot of content. There's a lot of shorts, and it's just it makes me laugh. It makes me think. Pretty much everything you'd want out of a content creator. How do you have so much time, so much personal capacity to handle these lawns, start the second location, but create content and post it and edit it? Where does that time come from? How would you give me advice personally? Because I feel like I'm lacking, that drive to do that.
I think there's a lot of times in the day that we're either just maybe sitting or wasting time or something like that. And what I have found is when the external circumstances change, that's when I begin to change. So I'm kind of a procrastinator, which is probably a bad thing to say, but I do procrastinate on things, and sometimes I'm forced to do things. So like, for example, like with us opening a second location, like I am forced to have to figure out how to manage my time better than what I did prior, And then when you add the YouTube, editing, because I actually edit all of the videos and stuff, which is not great. I mean, it's just 15 minutes of me editing or whatever, but with the shorts and all that stuff, I do all of that stuff. But what I find is like a lot of those, when I'm able to do that, is like when I would otherwise be maybe sitting there scrolling on my phone. So like, perfect example, yesterday, my wife had to go pick up her ring because it just got cleaned. And while she ran inside the store, I posted like 3 shorts, two, 3 shorts, like while I'm just waiting for her 10, 15 minutes inside of, I think it was K Jewelry or whatever. Yeah. And so just to where otherwise I might have been, maybe listening to music or doing like that. But you just kind of figure out as more things get added to your plate, you start to kind of like push out some of the stuff that is kind of wasted time, and then start to fill that time with like more productive, or like, in my mind, I'm always like, okay, what could I be doing that could be productive? So for example, actually, before you got here, I got here at like 8, and then I kind of set everything up. But I'm like, okay, I've got 20 minutes. I posted 2 shorts. I'm like, I need to be doing something productive and moving the business forward and fulfilling my purpose and calling by impacting other people, helping other people, influencing other people to grow their businesses and whatever. But yeah, that's kind of how I handle that.
Are you at the point now of monetization with YouTube?
No. Yeah, I think I'm at 935 subscribers.
Oh, sweet.
And then, so we're almost at the 1K mark. But what we need more of is the long form.
Yeah.
So I think we're only at like maybe close to 2,000 hours. You need like 4,000. But like, to be honest, and this is one of the things I was going to talk to Mike about, is like, does he segregate the media business, or does he just kind of roll it all into his main business with like income and expenses and stuff like that?
I was watching one of his videos. I think he separates it, because he mentioned something about how he breaks even on the media side just because he keeps reinvesting it. The video said something like they made like, I think, close to $1 million on the media side, and that's YouTube, probably the door hangers, the website and everything, all that combined. But yeah, I think he keeps it separate from Augusta and everything. I mean, he has everything separate. He's becoming a monster in the industry. I was talking to one of my only business partner, because we're going to use Copilot next year. I'm like, from a standpoint of wanting to completely take over the industry, he's going to do it.
Yeah.
Because he has Copilot, which all these companies will put their information on. So now he gets to go to each individual city and be like, this is the average hourly rate, average property size, I want to open a location there. He has P for P, he can see the labor rates of every single company. He's going to do it.
Yeah.
And
I believe it.
But I mean, I've had very few interactions with him, and he just is such a genuine dude, and he's like unapologetically himself, which I can always respect out of anybody. So hats off to him. He's crushing. He's 27, 28, and he's just an absolute monster.
Yeah.
So I think we're both students of him, how we both run our businesses, and truthfully, I don't even know if this will make it back to him, but without him, I personally wouldn't be where I'm at in my business. And it's people like him and like you that are pushing out all this content that's going to help the little guy, right? Get to where they want to be. So just to kind of breathe more life into you, he's helped countless businesses, and you're also going to help countless businesses. And it's just because of you taking that time to post those 2 shorts, or instead of scrolling, those 2 shorts could change somebody's life. And so what you're doing is honorable, and I hope to be doing that here pretty soon as well, as soon as I can find some time. So
yeah.
Will, I appreciate you taking this time and having this podcast with me. It's been an absolute pleasure getting to know you more. I'm looking forward to the next one that we can do.
Absolutely.
Awesome,
Thanks for coming out, man.
Yeah, man. No problem.
Awesome.
Sweet. That was cool.